In the last video, we looked how to make a compound shape like this cog. In this video, I want to expand upon what we are doing. So I have a slightly different shape that I've already made. And basically with this shape, I have what looks like two different shapes, and they are rotating in different directions. Now, of course, I could have this on two separate shape layers, but if I want this to be one icon, it's probably easier to have it on one shape layer. So I want to introduce some new concepts. We're still going to make a compound shape using the merge commands, but we are also going to work with groups. So I'm going to go ahead and hide and minimize these, and I'm going to go ahead and start by making a new shape layer. Then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to start adding some ellipses. I'm going to go ahead and just off the bat add 3 ellipses, and I'm going to make them first one 200. I'm going to add another ellipse, make this one 180, and I'm going to add another one that is 160. And notice when I have these open that there's no kind of rotation command. All right, so we're going to have to add that, and that's what groups allows us to do. We can transform all of these, and there's rotation for that, but that will just rotate everything in the same direction. So now I have 3 ellipses, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, well, I'm going to add a fill first, so we have a nice color. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a merge paths. And the first merge paths I want to do is just for the first 2 layers here, and that is going to be a subtract. So we just kind of have this outer edge here, and we have a nice hole in the middle. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a rectangle. And this rectangle I'm also going to want under this first merge path, because I'm going to want to cut out a quarter of the circle there, so I'm just going to have to move it. And since it's 100, I can just move it, I think 50 and 50 in position so that it cuts out the bottom right quadrant of this outer circle. So that is good. So now I'm going to want to cut out the inner circle, so I might be able to add a rectangle. And I can move this in the opposite direction. Instead of 50-50, I can go -50, the tab, and do -50. So now it's blocking that, and then hopefully I should be able to do another merge paths. Have it underneath these two and choose subtract. And you'd think in theory that it would subtract just this part of the inner circle, but it's not. It's not working the way that we want it to. Although we do have another nice kind of shape happening here, but it's not working the way that we expect. And when that happens, I think the easiest way to deal with this, just irregardless of how you want to animate it, or how I specifically told you I want to animate this one, is we can go ahead and we can add some groups here. So we have our shapes in groups, and what that lets us do is it lets us be a little bit more specific. So in my first one, I'm going to have the outer circle with the rectangle in the lower right. So that's going to be the first 3 shapes in the first merge pass. I'm going to hold the shift to select all of them and then drag them into group 1. And then I'm going to add another group for the inner circle and inner rectangle. And notice how that came in inside of this group 1. So let me go ahead and delete that. And make sure nothing's selected so it comes in on the outside. And then I can go ahead and I'll move it up here so I can then select all of these and come in here. And so now you see, now that it's separated out by groups, it's actually, the group 1 is acting how I suspected because I have the shapes in the right order and the merge path. And the group 2 is also working how I would expect with the ellipse and then the rectangle blocking out or subtracting from part of that with the other merge paths operation. Now, of course, I could also do multiple fills this way too if I wanted to add the fill to the group 1, right? Then group 1 I would have to add another fill to, and I could change the color of that fill if I wanted to. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I have 2 groups, And what's nice about each group now is that instead of just being beholden to this one transform control, each group has its own transform. So I can go ahead to the beginning of my timeline, and I can transform group 2. I can look for the rotation or whatever else I want to move, and I can start it at 0, and then move to 3 times rotation after 8 seconds. Close up group 2. Group 1 will also look for that rotation, and I'm at the end, so I'm going to do the rotation. I'm going to start it at, I'm going to go the opposite direction, so I'm going to type in -3, and then go back to the beginning and type in 0. And so now when I go ahead and play this group, I'm going to have these two shapes with different fills rotating in opposite directions. And right now we're only seeing the first 2 seconds, so we're waiting for that preview to build. But it would continue on, right, if we watch the whole thing play out.